Hello, everybody. I'm Ed Kull, Director of Athletics here at Fordham University. It's my honor and privilege to have one of our most prestigious Fordham alums here, the recipient of the Vin Scully Award for Sports Broadcasting Excellence from WFUV in 2018, the voice of the New York Yankees. Please say hello to Michael Kay.
Hey, Ed, how you doing?
Great to be with you, Michael. Fun to catch up with you here. Unfortunately, I know we're still doing this virtually, but look forward to seeing you in person here shortly. I know it's a busy time of year with you, obviously covering the Yankees. Your number one sports talk show on ESPN, as well as the great news this week of you coming out with a book celebrating 20 plus years of interviews on your TV show on Yes Network, CenterStage.
Yeah, we're excited about that. We've been doing the show for 20 years since the Yes Network began, and I think there have been about 240 shows. So we decided to take the 35 best interviews and run them. But the thing that makes this different than if you've seen the interviews, it tells the backstory, how the people were booked, what they were like behind the scenes when the camera wasn't rolling, how they treated people behind the scenes. I think that's always important to get the measure of a man or a woman, how they treat people that they don't think are important. So all those little nuggets will come out in the book. So we're really excited about it. It's the first book I've written. I could use the old joke that now I've written more books than I actually read, but I did read a lot of books at Fordham, Ed.
You did. You were a great student at Fordham, and obviously I know it wasn't easy going through that classwork during your years there. You know, Michael, it's funny. Obviously, you've had an incredible career. And, whether it be as a journalist, obviously as the voice of the Yankees and covering the Yankees those years, whether it be MSG or the Yes Network. Talk a little bit about how even the idea of CenterStage came about in that show. And what a wonderful opportunity for you to kind of showcase a little bit more of your kind of your total life skills and your total social skills in terms of who you are even outside of baseball and how much fun it is. I know you do that every day on your talk show now, but 20 years ago, you're probably like CenterStage. What's kind of the thought here? How did that come about, the whole idea?
Well, the guy who started the Yes Network and still runs it now to this day is John J. Filippelli. And, they told him he was going to have to program this whole station other than just do Yankee games. So he was sitting in a diner and on a small piece of paper, and I actually have the story in the book, he's scribbling out, ideas about what kind of programs could fill the rest of the day. And he said, inside the actor's studio for sports. So it's kind of based on the James Lipton show that we've all seen. And that's what it came out to be. And I think people like long form interviews because you really get somebody to open up. They get more comfortable. They feel as if they're having a conversation, not being interviewed. And I think some of the things that we've gotten out of people prove that out. So it all came from a little cocktail napkin that Flip wrote on inside the actor's studio for sports, and that became CenterStage.
Very, very interesting, and obviously what an incredible run and what a success story this is. And Michael, I've been lucky enough to be in some of your live broadcasts of CenterStage. I actually caught a few, including, I believe, our Fordham alum, Alan Alda, at one time. I know I did Chris Mullen another time. Joe Namath. You've had everybody from Billy Crystal, Joe Montana, Bill Parcells, you name it. How active and involved in you, Michael, in saying this person would be a wonderful person I want to interview? Is this someone I want to get involved with? Or how active are you recruiting people to be interviewed?
Well, obviously, I'll give my wish list, but we have a booker and we have producers who do that. I mean, one of the guys that I've always wanted to interview, we've never been able to get, and that's Bruce Springsteen. There are just some people that it's hard for them to commit. It's an hour show, but it's really more like a 2-hour commitment, getting to the studio, makeup, all that. So for the most part, they'll run people by me. Do you like this guy? Do you like that guy? One story that I even put in the book was I've always wanted to interview like presidents, Clinton and Bush. And we got Bill Clinton and he was promoting a golf book that he had written. But we were told by the publicist that the only thing I could talk about was the book. And I said, well, then I don't want him because I'll look like a jerk to have a former president of the United States and I'm just asking him about his golf game. I know he was promoting the book and we certainly would have given him a lot of time on that. But if I couldn't ask him all the things that I'm curious about and his presidency, it would look like I just did a bad interview. So at that point, I said, no, we don't want him.
That's interesting, Michael. So and obviously shows a lot about your character and obviously your your views on things. Talk to me about your most favorite interview, maybe one that kind of went in a different direction. I know obviously you're prepared with questions and topics and areas of focus, but I also obviously been doing this so long, I can imagine how quick you're able to have that conversation and adapt and go with the conversation. Talk about maybe an example of that where it went in a different direction than you were even prepared for, but maybe we're happy and excited to see it. It wasn't as scripted as you would envision.
Well, probably my favorite one of all the 240 would be Larry David, because he was everything that I hoped he would be. He's that guy from Curb, but not as nasty. But the interview that I think probably resonates the most was with Mike Tyson, because we sat down for about an hour and a half, and he alternated from literally crying, rage, laughing uncontrollably. It was just raw, visceral emotion. And I didn't even put this in the book, and I found out about it after I wrote the book, but Spike Lee was watching that show on TV, and he came up with the idea of Mike Tyson's one-man show on Broadway from watching that, and actually called up Tyson and said, that's what I want, you on stage alone on Broadway doing what you just did on that show. And that's, a pretty good Broadway show was born out of that show. So I'm pretty proud of it. But at times, like, I'm sitting there and I really didn't know if Tyson would strike me. He was just so, I can't say out of control, but his emotions were ping-ponging all over the room. So that was a really interesting interview that we did.
Wow, that's very interesting. You mentioned Bruce Springsteen and not being able to lock him down for an interview. You also close out each of your radio shows each day with a quote from Billy Joel, who I'm a huge fan of and actually live near in Long Island. Billy's got to be on that list too, I believe, right? Have you been able to nail him down for an interview?
No, we've tried. We've really tried it. I should have said it's Springsteen and Billy Joel in terms of entertainers, and we haven't been able to do it. We've tried, but we have not been able to. And it's funny, Ed, I started using that sign out on One-on-One on FUV when I was at Fordham. And I kind of put it to bed when I wasn't doing a talk show anymore. But when I started doing the talk show on ESPN 20 years ago, I said, well, let's bring that back from One-on-One.
I love that. That's a great story. I'm glad you added that. Michael, this story a lot's been made of this story here at Fordham University in our alumni news and our updates about, you and Mike Breen sitting in the cafeteria and talking about your dreams. And I was blessed enough probably about a month ago to spend the weekend up with Mike Breen up in Mohegan Sun. His induction to the Basketball Hall of Fame, gave her just a tremendous speech, and obviously he's had a tremendous career. And you have as well here. So now sitting here, Michael, you wrote your first book. You got the #1 radio show in the regional area. You're the voice of the greatest sports franchise in the world. I don't want you to get all, I know it's hard for you probably to look back on all this now and taking some inventory and stock, but looking back, you have to sit here and probably say, while doing this book or in the process of looking back over the 20-something years, what are your thoughts and emotions going back to that kid in the cafeteria, not maybe a kid, young man in the cafeteria at Fordham University, and to where you are now? It's just an incredible, special story.
Well, one thing I have to correct you, Ed. Mike has told me whenever you mention his name, it has to be Hall of Famer Mike Breen from now on. That's even when I talk to him, I go, "Is this Hall of Famer Mike Breen?" I'm so proud of him. We used to sit in the campus center. I think it was called that now. It's not. It's a different name now. We'd have lunch and we'd sit across from each other, and he would muse about how he wanted to be the Knick announcer and how I would want to be the Yankee announcer. And I really never. I don't take it for granted. I don't take any of it for granted. I really don't. Every day I walk into the booth, I realize that's what I want to do since I was 9 years old, be the Yankee announcer. And the other stuff that's come along with it, it's just, it's mind-boggling at times. I'm so lucky, and I feel like I'm fooling people. I want to end the run before I fool people catch on. But so far, it's been about 35 years I haven't caught on. So very humble about it, very lucky, and now to be able to share it with a family, my 8-year-old and my 6-year-old and my wife. When I was leading up to doing this, I was very selfish. I wasn't married, and I made decisions for myself. Now you make decisions for other people, and it becomes a little bit more difficult to make those decisions. You can't be selfish. So I'm glad I got to this level and that they can enjoy it, that I can enjoy it as well. So I want to keep riding the wave until the water crashes to the ground.
I love that, Michael. It's funny. I noticed a couple of weeks ago, I believe you had a day off from doing the Yankee broadcast, which I know you don't get many of those in terms of your busy schedule. And you brought your family to the Yankee game. So you actually were sitting in the stands and enjoying it as a family, as a spectator, as a fan. Talk to me about that perspective of for a moment being able to step away but have your kids and your wife with you and your beautiful family in your stadium, and what must be going through your mind at that moment, but to look at it from a different perspective.
Well, it's funny how that came about. My son, who's 6 years old, Charlie, I haven't pushed him. He can do what he wants, whatever makes him happy. And he has become obsessed with baseball. Not just like it, obsessed. So when I come home from a game, I get grilled about every inning. I mean, he watches the games. For a 6-year-old to sit there for 3 hours and watch every single pitch and like he really knows stuff and asks the right questions. So they went to the game on Memorial Day, which I was working. And like they drove home with me. And he said in his 6-year-old way, he goes, "Daddy, are you ever going to be able to go to the game with us?" So that broke my heart. And I knew that the Saturday I was off, and Fox was doing the game, Yankees Red Sox. So I got tickets, and to sit there with them was neat. My daughter hates it. My daughter's 8 years old, and she has no interest at all. And I always ask her why, and she goes, "Because when there's baseball, then Daddy's gone." So that breaks your heart too. So to be able to spend some time with them was great. And just the fact that the job that I have allows me to get those seats where we could sit there, and they put, them up on the scoreboard, and the kids got a real kick out of that. So it's as I said earlier, it's awesome to share with the family.
That's incredible. And I appreciate you sharing that, Michael. Last question for you here. We just concluded, because of COVID, individual commencements for each of our schools on the Rose Hill campus. And we also welcome back the 2020 graduates, Michael. Unfortunately, we couldn't have commencement for them last year. We were able to bring them back this year. Happy to say, and hard to believe, almost 75% of them actually came back and took us up on the walk, which is wonderful. So we just concluded 25 individual commencements on the Rose Hill campus. Any words of wisdom, any advice you would give these new Fordham graduates, these new Fordham alums, as they enter the so-called real world here?
The advice I give people of any age, I think there are very few outliers in the world where their skills are so much higher than everybody else that there's no competing against them. A lot of people are pretty much on equal footing. And the only thing that makes people stand out is the ability and the desire to work harder than everybody else. So if you're in a work environment where, there are 4 people and they all have similar jobs and one of them is up for promotion, the boss is going to think about the one that doesn't punch the clock, that works hard, that's there all the time, that never takes no for an answer. And that would be my advice. Everybody can control effort. Everybody can control effort. You can't control skill. Skill is God-given, but effort is not. Effort is just about getting down in the trenches and working harder than everybody else. And that would be my advice, especially when you're young. And I talked about earlier, I was single for a long time. I didn't get married till I was 50. I was making decisions on my own. So if I had to work a 15-hour day, I worked a 15-hour day. And I don't think that I have broadcasting skills that are better than anybody else. I just think that, I was present and accounted for and worked hard, and people took notice of that. And I think that would be my advice. Just work harder. If you think you're working hard, work a little bit harder, because people do notice.
Great advice, and a perfect way to summarize. Your Fordham road always to this wonderful success. Congratulations to you again, Michael, on an incredible career. Obviously, the voice of the Yankees, the top radio show in our sports talk show in our area. This wonderful book that you're now launching here this week that we will make sure all of our Fordham alums know about. Go out there and purchase and support Michael. Obviously, he represents everything that's true about a Fordham alum and a Fordham man of others. We couldn't be prouder of you from Fordham University. And again, congrats and on your beautiful family and all your continued success. Anything we can do to help you here at Fordham, we're here to help you. And good luck the rest of the way with the Yankees here this season.
Thank you so much, Ed. I think they need it. If you and I can hit, we can help them out.
Appreciate you, Michael. All the best.
Thank you.